Hi there. Well, welcome to the energy update for the week starting Sunday, the 22nd of February, running until the 28th of February. What fuckery have you got for us? Well, we've got Mercury stationing retrograde as we try and integrate some of the dissolution of structure that is currently happening as I'm filming this, because we had this morning the Saturn Neptune conjunction in Aries at 0 degrees. My name is Analia. I am the Explicit Empress. I will be your energetic translator today of the astrology of the universal fuckery. Let's see. February 22nd, what have you got for us? We have got a lot of bullshit. Okay, this is a lot of adjustment energy because we have had some massive shifts. We have had Saturn and Neptune meet up this morning at 4 a.m. We had the Aquarius eclipse, which, let me remind you, my friends, we are still inside of that eclipse window. We are still smack bang inside of it. This is a full week inside of the eclipse window. Okay. So it's weird in here. It's always weird in an eclipse window. We never know what to expect. We never know what epiphanies could happen. We never know what chaos could come. So this day on the 22nd is a whole lot of adjustments. Okay. Semi-squares are telling us to get rid of an outworn situation. Semi-sextiles are telling us that we need to stay open-minded. Quintile, that says throw out an outworn idea. So a semi-square and the biquintile are technically different, but they absolutely mean the same thing, and that is to get rid of some kind of outworn programming. Okay, so we start off this 12:10 a.m. and we've got this semi-square to the node. So it's really trying to show you where there is some kind of outworn idea around how you take up space as your own authentic person. And that will have a lot to do with the work that we have been doing in the father wound and the mother wound, but specifically the father wound placement over the last few years. And the semi-sextile to Uranus is saying keep an open mind, because if you really looked at the last 7 to 8 years, you've got a whole lot of information in there that shows you where and why and how, and all of the information about when these things got triggered. And we now have this information that we can fix them with. So then with this semi-square with the moon at 29 degrees of Aries, so it does add this little bit of a crisis. And you might find that in a relationship dynamic, this is really feeling like you not only might need some freedom, but you also might need to be sort of loved in a bit of an imagination kind of based way, right? Like, let's be stable, 14 degrees, Taurus degree, but also let's go with the flow, Pisces. Let's really love each other and go with the flow. This aspect being a semi-square, though, for some people, especially those people who are in relationships right now that might need a little bit of extra honesty, then this semi-square is sort of saying to you that you have been stuck somewhere. Now, with Venus and Pisces, you could be stuck idealizing a relationship. You could be stuck thinking that this relationship is something that it is never going to be, or you might just be on the other side of that, like finally seeing the truth, because the eclipse and the Saturn in Aries, they are really leading us into this moment of realization of having all of the bullshit that we have built up around things come tumbling down and get resolved by Neptune, and then we can see it in its full truth. So this semi-square could, for some people, really bring this moment of crisis of needing to leave a relationship that they have been idealizing or over, exaggerating good parts of for a long time, and you can't do that. Okay, we can see things a bit more direct now. So the semi-sextile to Neptune and then Saturn that we're going to get with the moon in Taurus, that is really asking us to be present. Be present in your everyday. Taurus wants us to be present, wants us to experience the world, right? Touch the world, feel the world. So looking around at your everyday existence and being present in your life, for having this Neptune and Saturn, really asking us, like, around you in your present life, what is it that we're building, right? Where is your worth ideal for this world? What is worth to you? How does your self-worth affect the things you feel worthy of? All of these sorts of questions. because semi-sextile, keep an open mind. Then we get this bi-quintile with Lilith, which is really helping us see where we've rejected truth about ourselves, specifically in relationship dynamics with truth now being at 7 degrees of Sagittarius. This would also be a really nice time to give yourself a bit of self-love, self-care, really loving on yourself during this period of the moon in Taurus, because with Venus in Taurus, this can be a really nice kind of space to self-love and really talk about nice love, be creative, maybe plan something nice, those kinds of ideals. Okay, so there's a little bit of something to push you out to travel. So the quintile to Jupiter is then going to allow us this moment of stability with that Taurus moon, or feeling good with that Taurus moon, to sort of see where we've let ourselves lose a part of us that is very skilled or authentic to us, or something that belongs to us, that the way that we grew up. And then the sun makes the sextile with the moon, okay, at 3 degrees. And this is where we're having a little conversation, because Pisces has no boundaries. Pisces goes with the flow, but Taurus certainly has boundaries. Taurus certainly has ways of doing it. So we're having this little moment where it's sort of saying you need to make a conscious effort to ensure that the boundaries you've got up around your emotional state are not affecting your ability to communicate what it is you are feeling, especially with the important people in your life. Okay, great time for some creative projects, great moment, great afternoon to really get stuck into something that brings out your truth through something creative that doesn't have any rules. Okay, get some paint or something, right? Think of paint, whatever. Then the moon squares Pluto at 4 degrees. This one could be pretty big on really some inner friction or even some outer friction if you do like, Sunday afternoon family catch up, because 4 degrees is related to the Cancer degree, and it really here it wants us to show us it wants to show us where we have potentially been too stubborn around these dynamics with our family environment, to be able to see how they have impacted our everyday existence when it comes to how we do what we do, right? How we do work, how we get out of bed, how we, go down the list of things that need to be done, and whether or not we're sort of doing that from a point of this is what I need to do, or this is what other people think I need to do. And a lot of that's going to come back to the way you grew up, how you experienced your family, and how free you were in that space to be able to be yourself. Then the quintile to Mars with the moon at 5 degrees and Mars at 23 degrees, various degrees of Aquarius, and 5 degrees of Taurus. So there is some pretty big energy in this quintile. This whole afternoon to me really reads as trying to see where you've been too stubborn to see. Right? Trying to see where you have been too stubborn to see. And, quintile aspects are really interesting. And like a lot of astrologers will say that they are minor aspects, but I always find that in these tiny details are the things that really help us understand what the fuck is going on. And so, a quintile is about trying to show you like a uniqueness about you, right? Something about you, some kind of skill or gift or creative vision that it only belongs to you. So when we have a quintile and it's happening with all of this Aquarius energy, 23 degrees of Aquarius energy, and Mars in Aquarius, this is where we're being shown that there is a creative way in which we move, a creative way in which we motivate ourselves that belongs to just us. It is the sort of motivation style that would only work for us and our existence. And that moon in Taurus at 5 degrees, sort of saying, yeah, okay, well, maybe you were kind of powerless as a child to build your own way to motivate yourself to do the things that you need to get done. And then you kind of grabbed onto that like it was yours. And then Taurus, we became stubborn around it. So with this dissolution of boundaries that we are currently going through with the Neptune Saturn conjunction, we might be able to see this now from a completely different perspective. And then that semi-square just afterwards is going to help us let it go, because that's Mercury at 21 degrees, Sagittarius degree of Pisces, and the moon at 6 degrees, Virgo degree of Taurus. So we're using the details of that 6 degree Virgo degree to really look at where our emotional state is quite stubborn when it comes to how we allow these mentalities to change. And 21 degrees, that higher wisdom, higher learning kind of degree of Sagittarius. With that there, we're being asked to understand and notice where we need to be integrating a wound story or integrating a traumatic experience from the past and understanding it, not in a logical way, but in an intuitive way. Once we understand it in that intuitive emotional way, then we can start to understand the mentality around it. And when we're looking at it in this semi-square aspect, which is saying like something here, some idea here is out, we want it to be gotten rid of. They're going to work together really nicely and really help us see something that needs to shift. And then because we get this adjusting aspect, this quincunx or an in conjunction at 10:41 p.m. with Lilith at 7 degrees, this can show up in a relationship, and that doesn't mean that it's going to be like a dodgy time, but it could show up as finding that really nice rhythm in a relationship and not wanting to stop that really nice rhythm because something needs to be, like there is something that you require. Lilith in Sagittarius would tell me that there's a level of freedom that needs to be required here, and that's kind of where the adjustment is. Even though we want a stable relationship, for us, we also need to have this freedom, Sagittarius, in relationship. Okay, so really kind of up and down day, a lot of adjusting kind of energy. That sun sextiling the moon at 4:40 could be really a nice time to be here. Okay, let's move on. February 23rd, what have you got for us? We've got a moon in Taurus for the whole entire day. And look, we've got a couple of biggies there in the morning. Look like a pretty big day. So let's go through it. At 1:49 a.m., we're having the moon sextile the node. So the Taurus 8 degrees, and we're going to get a few of these while the node is at 8 degrees. It's transformation degree, and the moon love being in Taurus. So this is where we're really wanting to be present and make sure that there is this growth, evolution, transformation happening in your everyday life, but also in your work, right? In your place of work. We're all kind of being opened up right now to the idea of work. And so what we want to understand in this placement is that our self-worth and our material worth are fucking connected. And this is where we start seeing, okay, this fear of going into the unknown, North Node, right, of where we are going with this comfort zone, something that we haven't experienced and that we need to learn, how that becomes a lot more terrifying and scary, and we get apprehensive about it. If we can't be present and if we can't go with the flow a little bit, and if we are stubborn in this emotional space and we're not willing to do the work to consciously take some action to explore why we're fearful of moving into this new space, and then we're going to be fearful of it and we're going to try and avoid whatever the higher world is trying to guide us towards because we don't want to fucking go there. Right now, this 3:13 a.m. Mars sextiling Chiron is going to be fucking interesting. We are going to be waking up on Monday in a very interesting mindset. I think for most people, it's going to feel like an exhale. It's going to feel nice because this Mars sextiling Chiron, there is just 23 degrees of Aquarius, and 23 degrees is that Aquarius degree. And we've got the 24 degrees of Aries. So it's really asking us to like make an effort to take up space as make an effort to take up space in a way that aligns with who you are. So when we get this aspect at 3:13 a.m., hopefully we'll all be asleep, but it's a biggie. You might be having some weird dreams. You might be finding yourself waking up because of it, because it is quite a big energy. Now, it's going to be, Mars will be in second house of work at 23 degrees. And Chiron will be in the fourth house of family at 23 degrees. Now, we make this conscious effort to understand how our worth is affected by this father wound placement, right? By the way that your father made you question how much space you were allowed to take up, right? The way you grew up, where you question how much space you were allowed to take up, being your authentic self, being your good self, whatever that meant to you as a child. Now, one of the things that we get during this aspect is Chiron will also be asking the South Node, which will be sitting in ninth house, higher wisdom and value. And that South Node is at 8 degrees as well, right? So Chiron is kind of saying here, like there is something that has been triggered about within your family space in regards to how much space you're allowed to take up and how that affects your work. But when that energy gets triggered, we go into some kind of repetitive, obsessive, or compulsive thought pattern or self-criticism. And we need to change whatever value system we're using that causes that. And at the same time as that, we're also going to be noticing where that repetitive pattern comes from, the parts of you that you've rejected when it comes to friendships and relationships. So we're getting information from a number of places, okay? We're getting the information from the family space, from our past, where we were sort of shut down or made to feel that we couldn't take up space in the way that we want, or we couldn't move or do things in the way that we wanted to do things. And in this current space, we will be getting our information from where we've rejected our truth in relationships, especially in friendships. So if you're having any issues around friendships right now, really make an effort to dissect them, okay? Because the South Node in Virgo is helping us with that dissection of what the fuck is going on. And it's trying to show us where we've been too self-critical. Now, Chiron also is going to be looking to change AC/DC, right? So how people are seeing you and how you relate to other people. So this aspect, this Mars sextile Chiron aspect, it's really about you noticing in your friendship groups where you are still upholding these belief systems that made you reject how much space and freedom you need to take up, right? How much freedom you need in your friendships to be yourself, how much space you're allowed to take up to yourself, and how you feel free or not to go about things with your friends in an authentic way to you, right? And it might be a little bit unconventional for them, but what we're trying to see here is where we allow these groups of people in our life to uphold this childhood wound. And in doing so, we hold on to all of the patterns around it, which become these value systems that need to be transformed, okay? So then we're going to have Venus trining Jupiter, and this is going to be all about information, okay? And again, this could be one where we are noticing it showing up in a personal, close relationship, okay? Because with Venus there, 100% could be that. Could be within like a close love relationship, a close friend relationship, wherever you have this one-on-one dynamic with someone. And Venus at 15 degrees of Pisces, I think that's a really interesting degree for it to be at, because it is allowing us to kind of collect information from this weird, hazy, loving, creative kind of Venus, right? And then Jupiter still retrograding at 15 degrees of Cancer is like, okay, well, how is this relationship space that you're in that's kind of boundaryless? I feel boundaryless within this Mercury, Venus, Pisces space. Like I'm feeling the boundary starting to come in with Saturn and Neptune, but just while we've got Venus and Mercury and Pisces, there is just still this haze to the boundary. And I think because of that, this aspect really helps you access this information without putting any harsh edges on it. And it's trying to show you where in relationship dynamics currently, how they are affected by the way that you look up. Now, this is a trine, so it is working in harmony. It doesn't require a lot of effort from us, but it wants to try and show you in the last 7 years, has some of that belief system and that dynamic and relationship dynamic, has that stopped you from being able to see like a new talent, a new gift, or show you something where you've shifted, right? Have you not been able to see that because of a relationship dynamic you currently have that upholds beliefs that you had in the past? And when we get Venus trining Jupiter, it's going to be really dealing with those feelings of powerlessness. It's going to be showing you where that impacts your social reputation, like how people see you maybe at work or moving forward into that legacy kind of space in your career. How this powerlessness as a child to really see your worth in a lot of ways, to really be able to love in the way that you want to love, how that impacts your like social reputation because it makes you over and over again. And part of that is going to have to do with how we experience the mother. And like Jupiter will be somewhat in a trine with the moon in Taurus as well. So it's really about where you haven't felt safe to speak up about your emotions in the family space. How that has provided information to set your values in relationship dynamics. And then in those relationship dynamics that you have one-on-one relationship dynamics, the way in which you are accepted or not accepted in that space affects your social reputation and how worthy you feel of being able to move into this newer, more comfortable, more authentic space. Okay? So it's a lot of big energy there in the morning. Now, so then we're going to move semi-sextile to Pluto at 4 degrees, right? Now that's the sun coming in and really showing us something in here, some kind of trauma space, some kind of lack of security as a child. Maybe it came from your mother. Maybe it is like a long-term security problem about showing up as yourself when it comes to all of the women in your family. I'm seeing a lot of that lately. Then we get to 12:55 and the moon will be in a sextile with Jupiter and really asking us to look more. Okay, so looking at how the way that you experience your mother, what information that gave you, and how that is impacting your life, right? Then that's semi-squared and Neptune says, okay, so take that information and whatever you don't like, we're not bringing that with us. Neptune is 0. That's not coming. That's not coming through this week's space. And then this moon sextile Venus, I think this will be nice. I think it will be a nice aspect, but it could really have two people not really looking at the relationship correctly. It could do that. But being that we being that we've still got Mercury like not retrograde yet, we are in the fucking pre-show mode. There is a little bit more direction. So this sextile to Venus could be really nice again for creative things, right? For imagination-based activities, for being very creative in relationship dynamics. You know, if you're somebody who dances or sings or paints, this is a day you want to lean into that as much as you can. This is a day for creative people, as far as I'm concerned. And if you don't consider yourself a creative person, go and get a creative habit. So the semi-square to Saturn, now Saturn will be at 1 degree of Aries, right? So that semi-square to Saturn is saying like, okay, but something here is outward. Something here needs to be let go of, right? And this could feel a bit stressful. This could feel like a lot of internal frustration or somebody getting in your way. But that semi-square to Saturn, like, say something about it, that frustration is going to be worth going to be worth your peace of mind? Is it going to be worth your security? Is it going to be worth your comfort and safety to speak up? Or is this a situation? Okay. So then the sun makes a quintile to the moon. And so that's when we are looking in that space. Okay. So where is it within that space? The trauma from your family and how that impacts your emotional stability when it comes to feeling nurtured, and how that impacts not only you feeling nurtured, but being able to nurture others. Okay, those are the two questions that and then at 10:12 with that quintile to the node, we are fucking transforming something so we can see what is going to move us forward. And then 11:51 p.m., the moon will sextile Mercury and ask us to make a conscious effort to truly understand some of the things that have come up during the day, to truly understand where the higher wisdom, the higher intuitive and emotional wisdom is, if we allow ourselves to find a higher way to use the emotional space without it. So February 24th, what have you got for us? Okay, so we will have the moon move into Gemini here, so we will have a void moon throughout the morning. Okay, so semi-sextile to Chiron, right? So that's telling you to keep an open mind, which really tells me that we are integrating and healing some part of the Chiron moon throughout this day. Okay, now it is pretty close to hitting 24 degrees as well, so it's gonna like in the next week. Okay, it's gonna move from 23 degrees to 24 degrees, which moves it out of an Aquarius degree into a Pisces degree, and we can really start releasing and purging and integrating and understanding that childhood evolving to the last. So 4:19 a.m. square to Mars at the Pisces degree. What a weird aspect. A square, right, has edges, has corners, it's sharp, it's a hard aspect. The moon in Taurus, there's nothing hard about that. And the moon in Taurus, if you were to draw a picture of it, it is somebody getting a foot massage while having a face mask on, while eating the finest fruit from the most golden of all orchards, and you know is laying back in the sun and loving life. That is the moon in Taurus. There are no hard edges to it, especially at 24 degrees, which is Pisces. But Mars at 24 degrees of Aquarius, not that there's hard edges to it being a Pisces degree, but Mars is fire and Aquarius is electricity, right? And so this is where we're starting to, like, I think that this aspect is really going to let us lean into the stubbornness and won't be a problem. This is about integrating the information that we have picked up over this moon cycle, but also over like the last cosmic cycle, because as everything starts moving into Pisces, especially with the sun there now, we are in the final month of the astrological year. So everything is starting to come to ground. Everything is starting to make sense. What the overall society tells you should be happening in December at the end of the year, we are in that. This is it now. Okay, whatever the fuck the calendar says, who cares? This is the astrological new year, the energetic new year time, right? The end at the beginning, the lunar new year has already started. New emotional space has already opened and started, and we are now just moving through with the sun in Pisces lighting up all of these. So this square to Mars is helping you understand that the way that you move, the way that you deal with the sexual energy, the way that you motivate yourself, the way that you deal with that rage, that anger, that masculine side of us that bubbles up through that Mars part of the psyche, has to be authentic to you, no matter how unconventional it looks to everybody else. Okay? So this fixed energy with this Mars energy and then that Pisces degree is going to help us do that. Okay, now a square is friction, it is inner friction, but it is doing it because we are evolving something about how we use our masculine energy. Then we get a conjunction to Uranus, so just in case you still weren't able to allow yourself to be this unconventional version of yourself, this conjunction will help. Okay, because even though it's in Taurus, Uranus is here to bring chaos, 27 degrees Gemini. So we have this kind of movement energy that's helping us understand where in the last 7 years, the places that we have felt stable, what information. But I want people on this day to really be thinking back, like over the last 7 years. I might actually see if I can find some make a short video about it of when this has happened before. But this is about truly understanding the information that you have picked up, okay, and where you've been to stuff about it, where you've been to surface level about it, and you need to actually go a bit deeper, right? And so this could be some emotional chaos as well. This could be some trouble in the home if this gets like really blown out of proportion with somebody not feeling stable, right? Because the moon and Uranus together, the moon is emotional, which like what there's no stability in that as far as everyone should be concerned, right? Emotions that they kind of go off their fucking wing. Uranus is the disruptor. Uranus is the planet of chaos. So it's here to like bring a bit of chaos and bring a bit of disruption to the way that you stubbornly held on to certain emotional programs. Because the quintile to Venus, when the moon moves to 29 degrees, right, that's going to be happening with void moon. It will go void with that Uranus, be in a void moment when we get this quintile to Venus, which is helping you. I mean, from a bit of a point of like we're running out of time, that crisis, like let's go, let's go. It could also 29 degrees for us have been really stubbornly holding on to, or been dealing with someone who's stubbornly holding on to something. And then Venus at 17 degrees, which is the Leo degree of Pisces, that could be like stubbornness about emotions versus ego, right? So this could be that moment if you're in a relationship dynamic like this, where someone is like holding on for dear life to how they've seen or believe that the relationship should be, and somebody on the other side in a completely different, confusing space, Pisces energy, and then that Leo space degree is making you kind of confident about how you think you see the relationship. So the quintile could cause some kind of tension that won't be able to be resolved very easily because the moon will be void. Okay, then it will move into Gemini and it's going to immediately make this semi-square. And then obviously it's going to meet up with the new babies in Aries. So semi-square to Jupiter is here kind of saying, oh, hello, there is an outworn idea, remember, from this space that you grew up in and we need to get rid of it. Then this sextile to Neptune, 0 degrees, we go, Neptune goes, okay, what? What within this informational space are we dissolving? Let's make a conscious effort. Gemini loves that, right? Let's go hunting for information. Let's go doing some new things. What are we building here? How are we allowing this emotional space to move in Gemini? What does it want to bring? What is it packing for the holiday? Neptune in Aries. The sextile to Saturn is a little bit different. It's asking you to make a conscious effort to understand your emotional space with all of the information from the dark and the light side of you, to understand your emotional situation from an I am perspective, understanding both of those two things. Because Saturn at 1 degree of Aries says, I am. Saturn discipline, Saturn boundary, Saturn time, karma, right? He's saying I am in Aries, and at 1 degree is an Aries degree. So this sextile to Saturn is saying, like, you need to accept both the dark twin and the light twin, Gemini, in your emotional space. And it's from that space that we then make a conscious effort to build a new value system, discipline system. Saturn, I am. My discipline system that aligns with the values that I have in the dark side, in the shadow side, and in the light. So then the quintile to Mercury, and this is the last aspect, I think, that we are going to have with Mercury at 22 degrees of Pisces, because it will station direct over the next couple of days. So the Mercury at 22 degrees, whatever the aspects it's making now, we're going to get that straight back, okay, because it's going to turn around before it hits 23 degrees. So this quintile is going to be important, all right, because Moon in Gemini is collecting information 4 degrees from your most private self, from your family space, that is Cancer energy, right, mother related. And then Mercury at 22 degrees of Pisces is asking us to take responsibility for the things that we missed because of the way we experience mother. And then trine to Pluto is giving us access into the underworld space, that Pluto space. And with a Gemini and Aquarius energy together, we can use this to be really good detectives and see what's kind of going on in there. The problem with both those two energies is it doesn't want to go super deep, but we're already in the underworld, so we should be able to grab some information out of there. And if trine doesn't need us to do any work, it's going to have to do it harmoniously, like we like. And then we get this square to the moon, okay? And this is wanting you to really look back over the last week and see how you're going, right? This is the first moon check-in, first quarter moon here in Gemini. And it's really saying, like, okay, hey, did you have any fun, right? 5 degrees, casual fun, also pleasure. Where are we enjoying ourselves? What is that information that you've got? But it's also saying, I'm feeling about the way in which our voice was powerless to speak its truth in one way or another. Okay? Because the sun at 5 degrees of Pisces is lighting that shit up. Going, hello, let's look here. Let's look here at any former related programs, any programs that are related. Okay? Right. Yeah. 25th of February, what have you got for us? This is going to be an interesting day. Okay? The moon opposing Lilith at 7 degrees, that's going to cause some fuckery in relationship dynamics. It's a tug of war between the dark twin and the light twin, that emotional space, right? So both sides of your emotional space when it comes to relationships. And it is coming in saying, like, bitch, you projected some stuff about yourself because of relationships, and I'm here to give you the dark feminine power back. And then the semi-square is saying, in order to get that dark feminine power, we also need to look into this space, because Lilith, of course, is a cross from Priapus, which is dark masculine energy. So when the moon at 7 degrees is opposing Lilith, that moon at 7 degrees of Gemini is also conjunct with Priapus, right? So this is a very masculine moon because Priapus is right there next to its conjunction. Now, Priapus is about the dark masculine energy, the sexual energy, and the way in which that sexual energy can make you feel very shameful or do things that make you feel very shameful. Okay, Lilith at 7 degrees of Sagittarius. Some of you are going to find out about cheating fuckle. Mark my fucking words. This opposition with the moon in Priapus pulling on Lilith at the other side at 7 degrees of Sagittarius, that is the dark feminine who has just come from Scorpio season, around information, finding all of the cheating, lying, stumble, bags, and fucking all of it, right? And she's in Sagittarius now, and she's here for fucking like job. Okay, no Sagittarius. Okay, follow the rules, follow the rules. This is Lilith at 7 degrees of Sagittarius, literally saying that. You follow the fucking rules. Okay? So the semi-square to Chiron is going to then tell us that it was an outworn idea that came from our childhood womb placement that made us not be able to see that originally. Okay? And then the square to the node is like, well, now with this information that you had, how are we feeling about moving forward into new space? What lessons learned? Twin to Neptune and Saturn. Let's now use what we know. 12 degree Gemini, 90 degree. Let's integrate and understand the higher wisdom inside of this, like the filter cheated secret information. And let's not take that into the future. Okay? Those of us dealing with dodgy cheating information, the other side of this is really being able to see how someone has suppressed their sexual nature, and like that needs to be spoken about, right? So it's either someone's cheating or someone's repressing some kind of sexual nature. And then the quintile to Saturn at 13 degrees, that's an Aries degree, so I am. And it's saying, you know, if Saturn's down here at I am, then this moon in Gemini is like, okay, well, now I see all of this shit that has gone on this morning. Yeah, I'm going to make some adjustments here, and I'm going to make some changes with how I'm allowing myself to see and feel and understand my emotions. 3:30 p.m. That semi-sextile. Again, this is a lot of information seeking. It's actually quite good because Jupiter is about to go direct into the next month, I think. And so we want to be collecting as much information as we can with Jupiter and 15 degrees Cancer. And this one will help us. Okay, so this might be a moment where we are talking about something emotional, seeing the dark or the light side, where we're talking about it, writing it down, trying to really figure it out, trying to really spend a bit of time in it, and to try and like, it could be annoying. It's an annoying conversation. Again, just Mercury and Pisces actually go retrograde. It's really hard to have like logically based conversations. You're better off talking from a point of view of I feel this way. When you do that, I feel this way, right? Not you make me feel. Don't be. That's a whole other video, but I know that should come out anyway. That's complete. Just avoiding all responsibility. Again, that's a whole other video. 9:10 p.m. moon square Venus. Okay, and so this is where like this is fun. If you've got an 18-degree placement, Gemini, Pisces, Virgo, Sagittarius, hold your fucking tongue, right? Hold your fucking tongue in this aspect because 18 degrees is a bit of a see next Tuesday of a degree, right? Like if you imagine a Virgo and how discerning and how critical and how they can notice details in things. 6 degrees is a Virgo degree, and 18 degrees is the other one. 18 degrees is like the one, right? I always like to see the 18-degree Virgo degree. Like I turn it on its side, right? Now you're going to think I'm fucking crazy. But I turn 18 on its side, and it's 2 eyes and a mouth that looks like that, right? But it is, right? It's like 2 eyes, and it's a mouth that looks like that. It's 18 on the side. I'm going to show you. Hold on. I've got posters here somewhere. Oh, here you go. I want to show you what I mean. 18 degrees. Funny little fucking 18. And if you turn it on its side, look at it. It's that fucking unimpressed face. Literally. That's 18 degrees. That's literally what it is. I looked at the details and I'm unimpressed. Okay? But it's because it's kind of like very heavy criticizing. So this square to Venus, mate, we are seeing the fucking details. We're seeing the relationship puzzle. We're seeing the manipulation. We're seeing the haze. We're seeing the gaslighting. We're looking at all of that shit. And it's in the fucking square. If you've just come out of a relationship, this square is like a conversation where you are literally like, bitch, I now know exactly what you're talking about. Right? So we hit that sesquil quadrant to Pluto at 1019. And that's going to show you where when that fucking give and take is off, right? Now that give and take, I want everyone to be in this mindset of check yourself first, right? Check yourself first. Not you make me feel, none of that. Check yourself first. Okay, what was I feeling? Why was I feeling it? Now, this interesting sesquil quadrant to Pluto. This is about the give and take. This is about the balance, right? Now, because it's the moon at 90 degrees of Gemini, I want us also thinking about the balance of the dark twin and the light twin, the balance and the give and take of how much space we give the shadow and how much space we give the light, right? Because the information, Gemini, that we have about our emotions, if that balance is off, we are not going to be able to move forward, right? Aligned. Because if we don't allow the shadow to come up and we just have the light and we ignore the shadow, then we get ourselves into trouble. That will eventually bubble up because what we reject will show the fuck up in front of you. Okay. Then, if we only allow the dark side and we don't see the light side, same thing. Okay? We then have to deal with this situation of realizing that we have chosen the darkness. All right. So this is as much about the give and take balance of the shadow and the light in you as it is the give and take balance of the relationship dynamics that we are in. Now, this one is specifically looking at Pluto 4 degrees of Aquarius, so it is asking us again the parts of us that we put into the shadow because of that Cancer energy, family energy, 4 degrees. Okay, so we're looking at the give and take how you understand your emotional space from the shadow and the light, and how that was affected by the way that you grew up. Okay. Now, because it's assessed with quadrant, the information that we can get from it is about a trigger. Now, that trigger likely showed up with that square. Okay, square moment of friction. What triggered that moment of friction? This assessed quadrant is going to show you because it's allowing us to look into the Pluto space. Okay, and we're looking into the Pluto space, looking at things that get we put in there when the balance of shadow and light is on. Because that is going to be the trigger that sends us into some kind of compulsive repetitive pattern that now we need to make a decision about. So this is kind of a day of like breakups if you haven't already. Like there are going to be a number of these days between now and when we get to the Venus retrograde later this year, because we are being pushed to be our authentic selves. To do that, we are having glasses removed that we've been idealizing people and jobs and things and places and money and all of these things. They're all being stripped back. So there is so much that should not, okay? Because it should not be in relationship dynamics that don't uphold our honest, true self, okay? So let's move on. February 26th, what have you got for us? I mean, that Sun Square Lilith down there, if you haven't fucking broken up already, my friend. Why am I so happy about this? I am happy about it because people who are in unbalanced relationship dynamics deserve to be loved by themselves as people and by other people who can see their true self. And I mean, that even goes for the fuckers that are out there cheating. And I'm not a huge fan of you because you could just be in a non-monogamous relationship. But, you know, you deserve to truly understand what it's like to love yourself. Okay, so let's get into this. 3:33 a.m. My friends, Moon squares Mercury at 22 degrees. Let me tell you one more time. I'm up with this. During this Mercury fucking retrograde, which it's gonna start Fab. 26 Fab. I don't have a time up there. Let me see if I can find a time for you. So what we're looking at with that square to Mercury is really this inner friction in where we need to take responsibility. Okay, again, calling back. where you need to take responsibility for your emotions, right? The dark side, the light side, where you need to be focused on yourself, right? Mercury in Pisces is allowing us this solution of logic in a lot of ways so that we can see the emotional and spiritual and intuitive connections that actually impact us more than we think, especially those people that are overall. So this square to Mercury is going to be friction that is trying to shake something about uh, how you believe you feel worthy of long-term success, love. Okay. Sextile Chiron at 551. That's saying like again, this is like something that's come from your childhood. Okay, so this mentality that we're trying to shift with the square, there is something that has come from your childhood home, and that needs to be understood. Right? So then we get the moon trining Mars at 26 degrees. That's going to feel quite stable, quite good. That's actually a really nice time to have a conversation with someone about a business idea, to move forward on a business idea, to you, okay, take some action on it, some stable action. Um, and, 26 degrees of Gemini as well. So there is a bit of stability to that, finding that stability in shadow nature, okay? Now, let me see. Mercury retrograde in Pisces, February 26th, 2026 at 5:02 p.m. Okay, 5:02 p.m. So throughout this part of the day, Mercury is not it's not retrograde yet. Okay, still. So the Venus semi-square Pluto will be interesting because in that same way that in the end of February 25th in the evening space, we were looking at that kind of give and take, that balance in the shadow side and the light side of our emotional space. This is quite literally in your relationship space. Venus at 19 degrees of what is the balance, the give and take? What is the me and you when it comes to this Pisces energy? Who's bringing this healing energy? Who's bringing this service energy? Who's over sacrificing in relationship dynamics? Why are you doing that? Is that something you got from the family space? Is that something that made you feel worthy of a relationship? Then you got that from the family space. Do you do it to feel secure? Whatever outworn idea has kind of given you this space, that's what we're throwing away. The semi-sextile to Uranus again coming in very helpful. Look, for the last 7 years, okay, there's information there that you need to be able to see why you need to let go of that outworn idea. And then by quintile says fucking drop it, right? The moon at 28 degrees, Cancer degree of Gemini. I've got all of the information about your security, about how you feel nurtured, and I am telling you to drop this thing that you've been holding on to that keeps putting your authentic needs for security and nurturing and love into the fucking underworld space like it doesn't exist. And let me tell you why it doesn't exist by calling in my friend, the sun in Pisces at 7 degrees, Libra degree, coming over at 2:41 p.m., making a square to Lilith and literally saying, I am now sun at 7 degrees of Pisces, right? I am integrating all of this ego energy, how I experience relationship dynamics, how I experience other people, the balance of that, right? I'm now going to come in and say, because of these things, because of the ego version, the idealizing, the manipulation, the trauma from the past, relationships, that's what the sun is lighting up. Because of these things, I'm now going to come in and have a fight with parts of you that you reject around relationships, around your sexual desire and intimate requirements in relationships, around your freedom in relationships, around your need to find a higher understanding of your primal needs in relationships. And the reason that you haven't done that is because of these relationships. So that Sun in Pisces, let's not forget that Sun in Pisces is being run by a Neptune at 0 degrees in Aries and a Jupiter retrograding 15 degrees of Cancer. So it's about your mum, it's about nurturing or the lack of nurturing, and it's about what are you bringing into this new sign. All right. So then Sun square Lilith, Moon square Neptune, Moon square Saturn. This is the emotional space coming in and having that same kind of battle, right? Sun says, you keep doing this to yourself, and I'm going to show you why, causing a moment of friction in that external to your body or internal where you've rejected yourself. Okay? Now, this could be spicy as well. This could be a very fucking spicy. Just say that right there. And then the moon at 0 degrees wearing Neptune. If you are a cardinal placement in the early degrees, you won't feel this. Early degree, Capricorn Libra, it's wearing Neptune. After that, Sun's wearing Lilith. You will feel and so again, we get this aspect of the moon at 0 degrees of Cancer, Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries, and going on this new adventure. What sort of nurturing requirements do you have, right? Don't be taking the bullshit. The moon square Saturn, it says right now, I told you not to take the bullshit. Now Neptune told you we're not taking that bullshit from the past. Let's I am Saturn at the I am degree of the I am zodiac. The moon at the I am degree. Let's look at your I am requirements for nurturing and safety in life. And let's build the discipline system, the value system that from that point. And to do that, 1144, because of that, at 1144, the moon at 4 degrees of Cancer is coming in, it's asking for some adjustments in the underworld space in order for us to be honest. Now, it's particularly interesting to me that the Sun squares Lilith, and then Mercury goes retrograde, and then the moon squares and Neptune. That's particularly interesting. Okay? I can't explain that with words right now, but that is so 11:44 p.m. All right. Mercury is retrograde. Dun dun dun. It's gonna be a really fucking beautiful. Okay. February 27th, 2026. All right. Quintal to Chiron, quincunx to Lilith. Right. The quintal to Chiron again is kind of coming in and saying like there needs to be, you need to kind of take charge of when you need nurturing. You need to stop leaning back into this feelings of powerlessness as a child, that stops you from taking up space, that stops you from asking for nurturing, that stops you from being able to get nurturing. Okay? Stop it, you're not a child anymore. Queen to Lilith, that is the Cancer moon at 7 degrees, the relationship degree, and it's saying like you need to make some adjustments in this rejected part of you, or you are never going to get the nurturing required that you want to relate. Right? And the sun finds 8 degrees in this moment of transformation. Okay, because 8 degrees, 12 degrees, that rebirth. The Pisces is there, we're dealing with big endings of things. Okay. So the sun at 8 degrees of Pisces is like, hey, look here, something needs to transform. And the moon at 8 degrees of Cancer is like, yes, yes, it does. Over here in this space where I need to feel secure. All right. Now that trine to that open up your emotions. Space, especially at 6:30 to 7:30 as well, because that trine to the north is also pressing on that stuff, right? So this is where we might see like any kind of fears or anxieties around moving into an unknown space. Something that goes against everything that you've done in the past, right? What is the lesson? What is the thing? Especially if it involves something spiritual and you're a logical-based person, okay? This is where we're seeing how the way we experience our mothers and the way that the trauma of the father has come through to us and needs to be transformed. Because that 12:55 p.m. says quadrant to Mars wants to show you where those things from the mother and the father cause us to go into a loop, right? A loop that we don't want to be in, where it causes us to get triggered and make a compulsive or excessive decision instead of being able to just make a decision, right? Now, the moon at 12 degrees of Cancer is trying to integrate and understand all of those ways in which we've experienced the mother and the trauma of the father, how that's affect our emotions. And when those emotions get triggered, it's giving us information that then tells us when this gets triggered, you're unable to act from an authentic perspective. And that's coming from an outworn idea, semi-square, to Uranus that needs to be let go of which we've got information about that we've received over the last 7 to 8 years when Uranus was there fucking shit up. Now, that biquintile to Lilith is quite literally saying if you don't let go of the way in which you don't ask for your own nurturing from an I am perspective, 17 degrees, if you don't start asking for that, the parts of you that you reject in relationships, that freedom, that what it is, that primal need in relationship dynamics, if you don't let go of these outworn concepts around asking or needing or requiring or even acknowledging that you need to ask or need or require any kind of security, you're never going to get it. Right? Let it go. Then the moon conjuncts Jupiter. Now, if you are a Capricorn Cancer placement around 15 degrees, this is a great aspect. Okay? Great aspect. If you are Aries Libra around 15 degrees, a little bit of inner friction, but still a great aspect. Okay? Because this is a moment in time where we get to truly understand how we get in our own way when it comes to the type of nurturing and security we like and need and want. And so if you are around a 15-degree Aries Libra placement, this energy will be squaring your Libra placement and a square brings friction. So it's squaring something in a friction because it's trying to evolve. If you are a Capricorn, this is an opposition. This is a tug of war situation. And that could also have you being a little bit emotionally sensitive because with that moon conjuncting Jupiter and it's in a tug of war with this Capricorn energy, it's like kind of trying to pull you over to that side, trying to get you in your feels, all right, in whatever space that is, trying to show you where you need to feel more secure, okay? And then we're at the final day of February, February 28th. What have you got for us? We're ending the month. Oh, Jesus. Are we seeing what we're seeing? Holy holy. That's a huge fucking day to end the month on. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Okay, let's talk about it. Let's fucking talk about it one by one. That's semi-square to Chiron, right? 8 degrees. Sun is trying to transform the trauma related to that. Okay, it's trying to transform it. It's trying to tell you to let the fuck go of that. Then Mars squares Uranus, and that's going to cause some fucking disruption. That is at a Gemini degree. That's the planet of chaos at a Gemini degree. That's Mars, the planet of war and fire, at a Gemini degree of Aquarius. I am a spiritual god. That's going to cause some fucking problems with money right there. Yeah. If you're a stock market person, I'm telling you, watch your stocks. Okay, watch your stocks. So when we get that fucking square to Mars, let's get into the very nitty-gritty details of it. Okay. So at that point, 3:20 a.m., and that square will hang around all day. Okay. We will start feeling that square from the day before, right? And we're gonna feel it all day. It's happening, this direct one is happening in the second house. Okay? So it is here to give you some information, but fuckery when it comes to money, right? It's trying to shift something, it's trying to shake something. You have got some information that has come from where you've been financially or materialistically unstable over the last 8 years. Okay. Now, what that is from, this is telling us here, this is where your worth has been affected because it's a way in which you were made to feel powerless as a child around something to do with material wealth, around something to do with feeling stable, okay, around your worth, where your worth was impacted, okay, as a child. So this square is Mars now in Aquarius being rebellious as fuck and going hard and fast, right? 47 degrees of Gemini degree, that's air. Mars is fire. So it's air and fire. It's a fucking storm, okay? It's a storm of electricity, Aquarius. We're seeing something now from a different perspective, something that we couldn't see over the last 7 years, and it's impacting our worth, right? Not just our money, but it is impacting how we understand self-worth, how we understand the Aquarius, how we understand the worth of the collective. Then we actually get a question about work at 4:58 because the moon will trine Venus. Okay, so that's at 21 degrees. So that's a Sagittarius degree. So that is looking for higher wisdom, higher understanding. Okay, and that biquintal to Mars at 5:10, let it go. Right. So the moon at 21 degrees enters this higher wisdom, higher understanding of its emotional needs and requirements, especially in a relationship dynamic. Now, this 4:58 a.m., that could quite literally be a really positive relationship moment. And that is where that you get a higher wisdom, right? Like somebody nurturing and loving you through something in a really beautiful way. And you going, holy shit, I've never had this ever in my whole entire life. And that is the first time that you realize that you never actually felt worthy of it. Okay, so that could be a really nice moment in between two bits of fuckery. And then we get the movement by Patel saying, like, if you don't let go of this idea now that we've got this higher understanding of it, you're not going to be able to do it, right? Then at 6:13, the moon is going to trine Mercury, and it's at 22 degrees. So now we are actually saying you need to take responsibility for the last few days in which we were asking about this. Okay. Now we're in the revision period. Now we're revising something and we are taking responsibility and making a focused attempt at understanding what the fuck is going on. Right. Good luck. The sextile quadrant to Lilith and then the node is going to be showing us where 22 degrees, 23 degrees, Aquarius. So the moon says when we're taking responsibility for the amount of nurturing and security we provide, and rest also as we're dealing with cancer, we also need to be taking into account the mentalities around it, right? And because we get that Mercury retrograde, we're looking there. So the sextile quadrant says when we take responsibility for the nurturing requirements or for the way we experienced our mother, we need to also understand that when that part in us gets triggered, we go into a back into that compulsive pattern, back into that obsessive pattern, right? We don't want to make a decision about anything. And so this is where it sort of says, hey, like where you've rejected yourself in a relationship dynamic, when you don't feel nurtured, this part of you gets triggered. Okay? Part of you gets triggered. When this part of you gets triggered, it tells you, this is the next step, that this tells you that then this gets triggered, which is you feeling too weird for wanting that nurturing, and then we're fearful of saying something and moving forward and learning a lesson. Okay. Now, very likely related to some kind of trauma situation as a child or an early relationship dynamic. Mostly as a child, though, because the moon's squaring Chiron at 23 degrees while it sets the quadrant the node. It's sort of saying, like, this is why you fear this. This is why you fear taking up space and asking for something that you kind of rejected about yourself because you've been told as a child that you shouldn't do. Okay. The sun then comes in and its bright fucking shining light of Pisces is going to show you the value system that is attached to all of that fuckery and that value system that needs to shift by understanding your own requirements for nurturing. Sextile to Uranus will help you out. Again, it's coming in saying hello. You got information from the last 7 to 8 years you can apply here. Let's do it. Then let's make some adjustments to 28 degrees Cancer degree. How we allow this nurturing self, how we allow ourselves to know what we need, to know what we need to feel secure, to know what we need to feel loved, nurtured, and safe. Okay. And this is kind of saying mother yourself, right? And then allow that mother of yourself to adjust the way that you see your authentic and or unconventional ways of dealing with masculinity. Okay. And then, like we want to scroll up here, Mercury conjunct Venus. Are you me at 434? Now I see very big details. This is a really nice evening. Okay, this is a really nice evening for mutables, especially if you're around that 22 degrees. If you are Pisces around 22 degrees, if you are Virgo around 22 degrees, if you are Gemini Sag, you're getting squared by this. Okay, so that's totally different. The Mercury conjunct Venus for Gemini Sagittarius energy squared this conjunction to Venus. It's going to be showing you where you fucking didn't take responsibility, where you didn't look at things in reality, where you did idealize a relationship for a person, where you did idealize the relationship to the point of thinking that this was the one, and then you put yourself second, and then you overgave Pisces, You sacrificed yourself, Pisces. Okay, so the Gemini Sag, not as nice, not as nice. Okay, Virgo, not as nice as the Pisces either, because there's opposition, and it is also trying to like show you where you over sacrifice, right? But for Pisces people, this is okay. And and for Scorpio Taurus as well. Scorpio Taurus, and okay, so Scorpio Taurus, Cancer Capricorn, there is some kind of nice energy around this, all right? Because you're going to get a trine or a sextile or be a trine or a sextile to this energy, all right? If you are around 22 degrees close. But Virgo, you're in opposition. You're around 22 degrees Virgo, right? So those places are in an opposition with this Mercury Venus conjunction, and they're going to be trying to show you what needs to be revised about your worth, what needs to be taken responsibility of about your worth. How does that relate to both? All right. So Mercury conjunction is 4:30. Now, the Mercury Venus conjunction is going to be happening in the eighth house. So it is transforming something, asking you to transform something. It's asking you to transform the way in which you see your value, the way in which you see your worth, the way in which you idealize things, the way in which you build mentalities around that, how you think, the way in which you do or don't trust your intuition. All of these things come up in questioning. Now, they're going to be trining the point of fortune in the sky and trining Jupiter. So without us even needing to fucking do anything, it is taking into account. So the point of fortune will be at 25 degrees of Scorpio. 25 degrees is the Aries degree. So where you are fortunate at like long-term investment. Okay, so this is a really nice aspect as well to look at. If you are looking at long-term investment sort of stuff, whether it be in money, because it's happening in the fifth house, it's more likely to be happening in a place that you haven't really looked at because it is in Scorpio as well, and maybe you were made to feel kind of powerless to believe you have any sort of long-term investment, kind of whether that's relationship or money, whether you actually deserve it, right? So it's kind of transforming that as well, something that made you feel shame about what you wanted or how much space you wanted to take up, right? That's being transformed. Because with that trine that's also happening with Jupiter, Jupiter will be in the first house. So it's sort of helping us understand how we are seen based on the family space and how impacted our like luck is by these things that made us feel powerless as a child to take up space, really felt shame, right? So the Mercury conjunct Venus is trying to shift your mentality, transform your mentalities around how you see the world, right? Because the moon will have gone void with that sextile to Uranus, so we are in this weird open-minded space where we get all of this energy, right? And then we get the moon will be in Leo, so we're in this kind of confident space, right? But that is also still opposing in a lot of ways the fucking eclipse, right? So something that came up around the eclipse, something that became obvious, something that really started seeing in a different way, is the reason why we are changing mentality around work and releasing any kind of trauma programming that was attached to it. So the moon training Neptune 1 degree now, Neptune is, we had my friend, but we had Neptune move Aries at 0 degrees to March 31st last year. It was at 0 degrees. And then when it retrograded a few months later, I'm not sure it made it to 1 degree, but we double check that. And then Saturn at Aries in 1 degree, right? So we're doing the Leo moon now. So now we're really having this activation, which is interesting to me because obviously the Mercury conjunction Venus happening in the fifth house, and then Leo rules the fifth house. Okay, so with the moon then moves into Leo, and it's giving us a bit more confidence to look at this emotional space from this I am perspective. And we want to take into account anywhere that we sort of don't show up in our honesty because we're worried that it doesn't look perfect. And we're wanting to, and this is just all working in harmony, which I love, and I think it's really beautiful. I think it's going to be a really nice evening. All right. So that Mercury conjuncts Venus, and it says like take responsibility, but also set long-term goals for how you are valuing yourself, how you are valuing, how you communicate, how you are valuing your thoughts, right? Your intuition, your how we value these things about ourselves. And then the moon meets up with Neptune and Saturn. We're still in a conjunction, in a separating conjunction. And they're sort of saying, okay, well, let's go. Like, what are we building? What are the values here? What are we imagining? What are we bringing down into ground? Like, what are we starting? Let's do it. Okay. If you have a creative project that evening space, even though the moon will be void, so don't start a new creative project. Okay. Do not ever start anything new during a void moon. Okay. So the moon will go void at 3:21 p.m. and then it will move into, it looks like it's probably going to move into Leo around somewhere between 7 and 8, right? It's going to be good 3 or 4 hours that it's void. In that void phase, that's where Mercury can run to Venus. So it's like we have this open emotional space to be able to shift some shit around in that space. Then it moves into Leo. We're coming into it. How do I now creatively express with what I right? And that's the week. And scene. Okay, that's the fucking week ahead. Let's do a little reading for the week ahead as well because I do enjoy that. Okay, let's use these animal cards. So let's get some energy around this last week in February. Okay, go and watch the Retrograde video again if you need to. Okay, because it will retrograde on the 26th and there is big energy in that space. Fucking bam. This is the fucking gate, right? Like today I'm filming this on the 21st, and on the 21st, obviously, Saturn Neptune fucking conjunct in Aries, right? So this is the new world, the Fool, right? But the Fool is number 0 for a reason. It's the end and the beginning. This is telling me that this week that we are walking into is the fucking hallway. Now, that hallway, my friend, could be much longer for some people than others. This hallway for some people is going to go and span the whole entire Mercury retrograde up until 21st of March, right? Now, interestingly, we get 21st of March, Mercury goes direct, then Neptune has a Cazimi, and then Saturn has a Cazimi. So all of this is linked. This is the new beginning, right? This Mercury conjunction to Venus, Mercury is retrograde, the moon is void. The boundaries are dissolved. So this aspect is allowing us to see the new beginning in a way that we've never seen it. Right? And it's asking us to it's asking us to remove any kind of distraction, right? 7 of Cups, to remove anything that is manipulating how we see things and seeing through our fucking intuition, right? See through your intuition. 9 of Wands. Like you fought hard. Like the people who follow me, this collective, you have fought hard to get to where you've got to. Okay? 9 of Wands. You are a warrior. Yeah. Okay? There is a freedom required though, right? The 9 of Wands, especially this in this particular deck, that feels very Sagittarius to me. So it's helping, this is really telling us that, like, lean into Lilith and Sagittarius, right? That wild woman. Lean into that to be able to see through the illusions, to be able to feel ready to walk. Okay? That's what I've got for you for the week. If you'd like a reading, please come and book one. I will be opening up my March dates very soon. And I will be doing another TikTok quickie, and we will be doing another spiritual tea very, very, very soon. Okay? As always, never be afraid to walk into the shadow and face that bitch and grab its hand and walk back out with your shadow in hand. And as always, as we say around here,